Not me, that's a female announcer from America. Okay, so now I share the screen and there we go. There's the website, which I hope you can see. And there we are, good. So I remember to record. So let's have a look at the results from yesterday. Seems ages ago, actually. And there's Tim coming in. That's good. He always asks two more people coming in. So actually, it's a reasonable size audience after all. That's good. So once again, Lynn and Pearl win with precisely the same score as the previous week. Well done to them. And it says Howl there. It's my sort of version of it because we didn't have an East and a West. And I always say, of course, with this group, of course, it does depend to a certain extent how much help you've had. But then if you've asked the questions and got the help, good for you. I believe, I'm told, there were some very exciting hands in group 2. I had a long screed from Keith and somebody else. I think there were at least 2 slams bid, and I believe there were 10 penalty doubles. I used to say you don't double often enough. Now, it's interesting, actually, because of the 10 penalty doubles, 5 were successful and 5 were unsuccessful, which almost suggests, actually, that maybe 1 or 2 people are doubling slightly too often. Still, there we are. Very good performance there. I have invited John Siddle, actually, so whether he'll get through in a minute. He got a very creditable result there with Mano. Excellent. Good. Any questions about that? Right, we'll start the actual sort of lesson side of things then. Now, last week we started on declarer play, specifically in no trump contracts. And I always remember, I was on Monday, I was speaking to some real beginners in Ipswich, and one person picked up their hand and they were declarer for the very first time. and she said, I feel an absolute nervous wreck. I've no idea what I'm supposed to do. Well, I said, join the club, because I played my first serious game of bridge 12 years ago, and I was a nervous wreck as well. And then one day, I read something which was a revelation to me, and that is, in no trumps at least, there are only actually 3 different ways of making tricks. It boils down to that you count your top tricks and there's 3 ways. And as most of us know now, we have this, what would you call it, an acronym: force, length, and position. And that's the only 3 things to it, really, in terms of extra tricks. Now, last week we concentrated on force, where you force out higher cards. You've got a run of high cards, force out a higher card. Really reliable way of making extra tricks. And then we looked at length, which is not so reliable because it depends on the splits of the cards. And tonight we're going to go into the sort of positional side of things. Now, that means the same as finesse, really. Positional winners, you take positional winners by taking finesse, which is just French for a fine play. So on the screen, we've got the kind of A to Z of declarer play and no trumps. Now, I hope it sort of goes from the shallow end to the deep end, really. So obviously we'll start at the shallow end with A. Now, I'm only going to, for this part of the lesson, just deal in single suits. It doesn't matter which suit they are. And I'm going to ask you, as I show each suit, I'd like you to just tell me 4 things, okay? I won't worry about group 1 or 2 this evening, because I think we're a little bit past that stage. A, how many top tricks have we got in this suit? B, if there are any false winners. C, if there are any length winners. D if there are any finesses. So there's example A. What do you think?
One top trick.
Yeah, it really is easy. I thought we always like to start from square one, don't we? So it's quite simple. It's one top trick, the ace, no problem. So we said we start from square one. And here?
Two top tricks.
Yes, it's going to be a very easy lesson tonight, isn't it? We'll see what happens when we get to Z. Just in case Andy's not quite sure, a top trick is just simply a trick you can win in a suit without losing the lead. You do have to have the ace, of course. Doesn't matter what else you've got. Okay, and how about that one?
Three.
And you're probably thinking to yourself, is it going to go on like this for the next 55 minutes? Well,
Yeah,
Four.
four top tricks.
Yeah.
so far there doesn't seem to be any catch at all, does there? What do we have to be careful of in a suit like this club suit here?
Play the 2 to the queen first of
queen
all,
first.
and then the 8 back.
The basic thing that where these sort of beginners go wrong, they cash the ace and then they're in the wrong hand with the queen. So you cash your tricks in the short suit first. Great. So far, so good.
3 top tricks.
Now, there's the first possible trap, isn't it? Because you've got the ace, king, queen, and jack. But of course, you can only make as many tricks as you've got cards in the longer holding. So we can't count that as 4, it's 3, because we've got an element of what we call duplication of values. Now, I suppose the worst possible example you could have of duplication of values is where you've got a singleton ace opposite a singleton king. So you'd use up 7 points in one single trick. And sometimes, you know, when you're doing your bidding and you're not quite sure whether to bid 2 hearts or 3 hearts, whatever it is, it seems a bit like 2.5 hearts. Look at your high cards and see if they tend to be in the longer suits. That tends to be a good thing. If high cards are in shorter suits, there's more danger of this kind of duplication. Okay, so far? So we've not got past top tricks yet. What's coming up next? What would you say about this suit?
No. None.
Right, first of all, we haven't got any top tricks because we mustn't count our chickens. There's no ace.
2 forced winners.
Yes. Now, that's the beauty of these high sequences, of course, that you can absolutely guarantee extra winners once the high card has been forced out. Lovely. So we've got 2 there because we'll have to use one of them to force out the ace. But it's in a good cause because with our 6 points, we've won 2 tricks, and with their 4 points, they've won 1. Quite good value, really. So we like cards in sequence. Okay, first we force out the ace. Good.
3.
But
Three
clearly we've got no top
No
tricks.
top tricks.
No.
We have a fabulous sequence.
Three.
And so how many winners can we guarantee, as long as we can get back to this?
3.
3.
Have we got any length winners?
No.
No. Well, no.
I was trying to fool you there. Of course, we can't quite count length winners as well, because normally we'd be counting one length winner here, wouldn't we? But because we the whole thing's, so we can't really add anything for length winners. That should say naught. And how do you spot finesses? Well, you spot finesses by gaps in your high cards, basically. So we haven't got any. Good. We have to force out the ace of diamonds. That's a lovely diamond suit there. For just 6 points, we have 3 tricks. That's good value, because how many points do you think you use up for an average trick?
Don't know.
Well,
4.
if you think about it, there are
3,
40. Yes, 3. One of the gentlemen said 3, and it almost is exactly 3 actually, because you've got 40 points in the pack, haven't you? And 13 tricks, 3 13s make 39. So, you know, a king is precisely worth 1 trick in our so-called Milton work count. Good.
None.
0 top.
No top tricks.
0 top tricks, of course, yes.
Yeah.
2.
Two.
Yes.
Two
This
forced
is
winners.
another, yeah. This is another bit of duplication, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, at first sight, you see, it's quite easy to do this actually in the heat of play. King, Queen, Jack 10. Right, we've got 3 forced winners. No, we haven't, because the suits aren't long enough. It's only 2. So a little bit of duplication of values in that little heart suit there. Good. Right.
Mm. No forced winners.
No top.
No
Top
top
tricks.
tricks and only 1 forced winner.
1.
Yeah.
Just one.
I mean, the 10 is crucial here, isn't it? Because it means that we have actually got a forced winner. We've got our sequence there. So it is worth a trick. Queen, Jack 10, worth 1 trick there. Good. Once we forced out the ace and king.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Might go like
Only have
Right.
1 force one.
One last
No
week,
top
actually.
Maybe 1 forced winner.
1.
No, well,
No
no.
top tricks, 1 forced winner.
Yeah.
It's 1.
1 forced winner.
You know, I'm assuming, of course, they haven't taken loads of tricks before then. But in theory, it is 1, thanks to the presence of the 8, really.
Mhm.
9.
And of course, we saw a hand like this last week, didn't we? And you have to be very patient. And it's a hand which I give to beginners when I used to teach beginners on about hand 3 to see if they can make any tricks out of their suit. And of course, most beginners cash off their aces and kings and don't even look at a suit like that. But it's worth a trick as long as you are patient, because you've got to knock out 3 high cards.
Mm.
Okay.
Tricks,
Yeah.
3 top tricks.
Yeah.
Oh, we have got top tricks this time.
Yeah.
possibly 1 force. She's got 4 left. Length.
Might have been
Yeah. I mean, this is not a force winners question, is it?
No.
1 length winner, perhaps.
Yeah.
Does anybody know the rough odds of, shall we say, the 4 of diamonds winning a trick?
Pretty low.
Do you think it's about 50-50 or better or worse?
Worse.
Is worse, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And that's because we've got 6 diamonds missing.
Mm.
And we know by now, don't we, that 3-3 is less likely than 4-2. It's actually about a 1 in 3 chance. Now, a tip. You often get 4-3 suits when you look at dummy, don't you? What should you do? I say, I know we've got 3 lovely winners here. Save it till near the end. Why do I say that?
They may throw a vital card away.
You know, we haven't talked much about discarding for a long time, but one of the tips of discarding is try not to throw away from 4 card suits, because suddenly this 1 in 3 chance becomes a cert. I know it's sometimes difficult to be able to do that, and both defenders are often involved in trying to keep 4 card suits. So although it's a 1 in 3 chance on the face of it, save it till near the end, and they either might mistakenly throw a diamond away or be forced to throw one away. So save your 4-3s till the end. Good. So 1 length winner, well, 0 to 1 length winner. There's no finesses there. There's no gaps in the high cards. And so that's about a 1 in 3 chance, at least at the start. And
Yeah. 3 top tricks.
Indeed, Martin. Well, force winners don't come into it. There's not a high sequence or anything like that.
Length.
0 to 1 in length.
Yeah.
It's 0 to 1 because the best split we can expect is 3-2, isn't it?
Mhm.
Now, how likely do you think that is?
Yeah, likely.
Yeah, it is. Nice, easy way to remember it is that a 3-2 split happens 2/3 of the time. And this is why when we are bidding, that we like to have 8 card fits, because your chance of a length winner is odds on. It's about 2/3. Okay. So most of the time you would hope to win a 4th trick in that suit. About a quarter of the time you wouldn't, and a 5-0 break, well, that's irrelevant here, but that happens about once in every 20 odd deals. If the cards have been shuffled properly.
Well, that's 2 top tricks.
Yeah.
2 tricks, 2 top tricks.
Yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 5. 7, 3, 2.
Top tricks is 2, yep. No false winners here, we'll leave that.
Up to 2 length.
You could get
Hope
You get
to
egg
win
winner.
on an average day.
2.
Yes, because again we've got an 8 card fit. They've got 5, most likely split 3-2. So we'd hope that the 5 and the 4 on a reasonable day would be winners. Of course, we can't guarantee that, but that's the odds. Now, another point about that suit is we're in no trumps tonight. And of course, the 4th way of extra tricks is roughing in the shorter hand. But this is no trumps. Any ideas about how to handle that suit? Okay, we're all agreed, I hope, that most on an average day, you know, although it could be 0, we ought to get 2. Okay. Now, I think some people tend to misplay suits like this.
3 to the king and 4 to the 8.
No, that is
Duck.
We've lost your sound, Chris.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Good. I was perhaps leaning back a bit. Do tell me. One of the gentlemen said duck.
No,
Now, duck, of course, as you probably know, means deliberately lose a trick when you could win it. You duck it. So why should you want to do that? Well, you've got to lose one trick in this suit, haven't you? The best break is 3-2.
yeah.
Yeah.
Lose it straight away while you've still got your aces and kings to stop their long suit. The other thing is, the other reason for ducking straight away is that if you then play the ace on the 2nd round, you see what I mean, and play the king on the 3rd round, you're in the right hand to cash the 5 and the 4 if you're reasonably lucky. So the order of play on that suit would be duck. I say that, of course, but you might be in dire straits and about to have an avalanche of spades thrown at you. But most of the time you would duck that suit, then win the ace when you could, and then over to the king. And if you've got a 3-2 break, you can then cash your 5-4. Of course, when you've got these long suits like this, it can depend on entries if things, you know, by that I mean high cards in other suits. But that's the general idea. Happy with that?
Yeah.
No, nobody seems to have. Nobody seems to have got stuck yet, at least. How about this one?
Oh, well, coming up
Oh.
2.
Looks so promising, does it? There is a top trick,
Yeah,
and force doesn't come into it.
no. Ned winners said
And there are length winners.
Yeah.
Quite tough.
Maybe one.
Yeah, I think on an average day, we've got 6 missing, haven't we, this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that will split 4-2 on average. So, you know, we could only think if we had average luck, we'd have one length winner in diamonds. And of course, we would have to have a way of getting to it in dummy. So one thought on a hand dart on a suit like this is keep 1 or 2 high cards in dummy to be able to cash that 2 of diamonds. Now, of course, on a good day, it could split 3-3 and you get 2 extra tricks. But these 5-2 combinations are well worth looking at. What would you do on the first trick, by the way?
I would duck.
Duck it.
In fact, I'd duck twice.
Yeah.
You could indeed, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Now that would be quite a good idea there. You could duck twice because you've got 2 down in duck twice.
But
Good.
you would need that entry into dummy to make sure
Yes.
you keep an entry into dummy.
Would indeed. And sometimes these kind of holdings can be deceptive because if you've got nothing else much in dummy, you know, there's not much point in ducking and working on it. So, you know, we can't see the other sides, the other 3 suits. But if we had got the entries, indeed, ducking twice would be good. Beryl, I think that was. Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Good. Well, that's as bad as you can get with 8 cards, isn't it?
Yeah.
3-2. Well, you could still probably make 2 forced winners.
And I think we saw an example of this last week, didn't we? Where an entirely unpromising suit works well because of its length. I mean, if you think about it, every time you play a heart, you're going to get rid of one of their honours.
Mm.
So, you know, given average luck, and that will be a 3-2 split here, wouldn't it, with 5 missing?
Yeah.
We should, in theory, be able to have 2 length winners. But even more so here, of course, it all depends on whether you've got the entries, because you've got no entries
You've
at all.
got-
Yeah.
So you would certainly need, you keep ducking until, you know, you hope you had average luck. And sometimes a suit like that can be surprisingly productive. I mean, it's quite nice to think you could get 2 tricks from that.
Mm.
Yeah. Reasonable
Of course,
chance.
it depends how, you know, can you afford to lose the lead in 3 no trumps when they're about to throw about 5 spades at you or something?
True.
At least we know the theory.
Yeah.
So a potential 2 tricks there from that unpromising heart suit. Now,
One top trick.
top tricks. We can't have a top trick without the ace.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I don't.
Oh,
Not length.
We could force out the ace with the king, but poor old king's done nothing. So we're not going to say force winners because there's no queen to back it up.
yeah.
Yeah, it's probably if West led with the spade, you may have to play your king and then play on your other cards.
Well, of course, West leading a spade is our ideal scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't want East to play through the king.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
if the ace
exactly. Yeah. This would usually say in 3 no trumps be your worst suit, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Now, of course, in an ideal world, West making the first move gives your king a trick. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Because, you know, if the ace is played, you just play the 4. Now, of course, Wests aren't always that kind. And there'll come a point in the hand where you do have to try to do something with this suit yourself. So if West hadn't been so kind as to lead it, what could we do instead?
Play the 2 and hope that East has got the ace.
We'd have to play it ourselves. And it's a 50-50.
We lost the sound again, Chris.
A 50-50 chance, isn't it?
Yeah. 50.
Okay. Do tell me. Sorry.
Play the ace,
Leaning
then
back again.
then you-
Yeah, we hope that East has the ace. If we hope one of two things, that West is kind enough to lead the suit, or East has the ace.
Yeah.
So this is our first finesse position. And how do you spot a finesse? Well, basically you have a high card with something missing above it. And this is the simplest variety, just the king on its own. Okay.
Yeah.
It's actually called a positional winner, the king. If East has the ace, the king's called a positional winner. And the fine art of actually playing it correctly comes from an old, I think it's French whist word, finesse, fine play. And this one, please.
One top trick.
three.
Right, with the top
One.
trick.
Yeah. Then you would find another one and the force winners.
No force winners.
Oh,
No
sorry,
force.
length winner. Length winner one.
No length
No
winners.
length winners, you see, because they've got 7 cards. The best they can split is
Try to finesse the queen.
yes.
That's
Now we spot the finesse position by noticing we've got a high card with a gap above it, and here it's the queen.
Yeah.
Sometimes the queen's with the ace. Here it's not. So how would you play that suit, that club suit?
Play the queen.
Well,
You have to play the queen.
Well, somebody says play the queen, but you see, we have to play it in a certain way. Well, let's suppose we led the queen.
Well, then you'd lose straight away. You have to lead to it.
The only way you can win the queen by leading it is by playing against a beginner who doesn't know that you're supposed to cover an honor with an honor. Okay. So don't try that. I mean, you might try it as a sort of deliberate deception. It has been known. You've got to lead to it, indeed. So you need to lead the 4 towards the queen. Absolutely. Now, you could say you could cash the ace first. On the other hand, sometimes it's best to keep aces for other reasons. So you wouldn't automatically cash the ace first, but you could do it that way. You could cash the ace and then lead up to the queen. Good. Okay, good.
Tell them everyone can see everything.
Well, you got one top trick.
Really top trick.
One top trick.
Don't forget, Brandon, we can't have top tricks without the ace.
No,
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose you're right.
one forced winner.
Force. That's a force.
Now, we could, in fact, just play the king or queen to force out the ace, and that would give us one trick.
Yeah.
Can we do better than that?
6, 2.
Done.
Well, in actual
Six.
fact, we can't.
No, because either way.
Yeah. I mean, this is the horror of having single honors, one in dummy and one in your hand. All right, you try to finesse the queen and you're pleased because it wins. But then, of course, you try and finesse the king. You can't have your cake and eat it, can you?
Not the both sides.
No,
Now, do you remember my tip for suits like this?
Don't play them out.
Don't play them out, one of the ladies says. Excellent. Leave them. They have a special name. They're called frozen suits. And you do simply not play those unless you absolutely have to, because you can't finesse both ways. And indeed, if they do lead this, if you wait and they lead the suit, you will always make your 2 tricks. So whoever breaks the ice first in a frozen suit loses. So a really good tip for declarer play: single honors, one in dummy, one in your own hand. Leave them to play it for you. Now, of course, sometimes, let's see if we can get 2 together. Now, this is much better, isn't it? Because here you can lead up to, say, the king, And if it wins, you know the next finesse is going to win as well, don't you? Yeah. And this is the value of togetherness in bridge. Your honours together in one hand are much better than separate. So if you're in this kind of 2.5 hearts situation, look at your honours and think, are they together or are they separate? And we can see from that example that they're better together. The king and queen are better together. Okay, as they should be indeed. So there you would lead up to the, say, king, hoping West had the ace. If that worked, a bit later, you'd then lose up to the queen. And you can win you can win 2 tricks, and you can play that. It's not like the other example. It's when they're like that that's the problem. You see my reasoning?
Mhm.
Okay. On we go with these things. Now, well, top tricks, obviously none. Force winners, well, we'd need the jack for that, wouldn't we? Now,
So length winners.
well, technically there is one force winner, isn't there? Because we
Yeah.
could play the suit by playing the king and forcing out the ace.
Yeah.
It says one there, but I don't think that's the best. You know, you often have suits like this as trumps. Have you noticed? You've got an 8-card fit, but you're not really sure how to play them because you haven't got the ace, king, queen to run off or something like that. And this combination comes up quite often in bridge, this particular situation. So what about length winners?
1.
Yeah, it's quite reasonable to hope for 1, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is why we like 8-card fits. It's a 2 in 3 chance, in fact, isn't it, of 3-2 split again.
Yeah.
Now, finesses. Well, technically, this is a frozen suit, isn't it? But you can't afford to be so choosy if it's the trump suit, because what's the #1 lesson in trump contracts?
Pull your trumps.
Now, I know we're talking about no trumps mainly tonight, but if it was the trump suit, you would want to play the suit out. So what you'd have to do, if you did decide you were going to get rid of their diamonds, well, you'd have to guess, really, wouldn't you? I mean, maybe later on in the hand it's less of a guess, as you see how this is why counting's so important in bridge. But on the face of it, at the start, that's a 50-50 guess. Now, let's suppose, for the sake of argument, that we finesse the king successfully. Okay?
Yeah.
So we've decided our world of guesswork, if that's what it is, to lead the 3 of diamonds and then try the king. And it turns out it looks as if West has got the ace and the king wins. What can we do next? I'll just repeat that question. I did say they're getting a little bit harder as we get towards the end.
Would you play the 4 to the 9?
Yeah.
4 to the 9?
I don't think the 9's quite high enough. Maybe if it were the 10, you'd have a very good point. Good guess.
If you play it first and the east and west follow suit, you probably would hope the ace would be in the hand where there's only 2 tricks.
Yes, that's the idea, and it has a special name. It's called the obligatory duck. Sounds like some cooking, doesn't it? So if the king won, you know that you can't finesse the queen.
Yeah.
Now, maybe somebody just said lead up to the 9. That's okay, actually, isn't it? But what you hope is that the ace, I think what Beryl was saying was that the ace is a doubleton, aren't you?
Yes.
So the only hope you have really, you know, if you're pleased you've guessed the successful finesse, but then you've got to hope that that ace is a doubleton. So you would duck a trick.
Yeah.
And I must say, it doesn't do any harm to lead up to the 9. I think it's probably the best card to play. So you'd lead the 4 up to the 9. So that's a special play which usually applies to trump suits, where you want to tackle them and get rid of their diamonds.
Have to have a fair amount of look.
Now, I hope this isn't the trump suit.
Zero. Zero top tricks.
What type of tricks?
Zero top tricks, yeah.
Yeah.
No force winners, because you need the 10 to make anything of that suit, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Zero length.
No length winners, clearly.
No.
So what are we left with?
Finesse.
Yeah, finesse, yes. And the odds are you will make one trick.
You might make one trick, yeah.
Now, there is a possibility there that East got the ace and the king,
Yeah.
Mm.
because the play, if you do play a suit like this, and by the way, try not to lead up to suits like this in dummy. It does, you know, try and lead up to empty spaces in dummy if you're East. So you'd lead up to the queen and the jack. Well, that will probably lose, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, unless West had the ace and the king, and then that's very lucky, isn't it? And that way, unless you're very unlucky, of course, this is a finesse you have to repeat, isn't it? But most of the time, the jack will say lose to the king or something, but then you can take it again. And you know, 3 times out of 4, doing it that way, you will make one trick for your 3 points, which is fair value, isn't it? Now, the idea behind this finesse, as you know, and I looked up, there are hundreds of finesse positions, not just about a dozen as I've got here. So out of all this, can we see a general principle? And the principle is, yes, you lead a low card up to your high cards. And that applies to most of finessing. So in this unpromising suit, you lead up to the queen and the jack and be prepared to repeat it. Okay. So I think there's about that's about a 3/4 trick there, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
Top tricks.
One,
Yeah.
two,
2 top tricks.
Yeah, we do have 2 top tricks this time.
4 winners. 1.
There aren't any force winners,
No.
because we'd need the 10 to force out the queen,
Mhm.
and
No
clearly no
length.
length winners.
No.
You see, how do we know this is a finesse? How do we spot the telltale signs?
There's a gap.
The gap, the ace and the jack.
Mind the gap. That's absolutely it. So the card we are looking to finesse is the jack. So how do we do it?
With the 9.
Which card would we play first, do you think? If, you know, we're allowed to be in either hand, shall we say? We've arranged the previous trick so we can be either hand. Which card would you play first?
1, 2.
5.
5.
I haven't heard the right answer yet.
9.
No.
King of diamonds.
Thank you, Martin, I believe. Why the king, Martin?
Well, there's always a chance the queen is a singleton.
Indeed. We have a finesse position here, but we have the luxury of having an extra high card winner. So the correct play is to play the king of diamonds first. Now, I know it's not very likely here, but it might be towards the end of the hand. It might drop the singleton queen. Then you take your finesse. And on a good day, you've got a 50% chance there of 3 tricks. Okay. Now that has also a special name, this position. It's called retaining the finesse position. So if you have top tricks and you can afford to take 1 or 2, you take them first, retain the finesse position, retain the ace and the jack. I mean, that could have been the other way round. I don't know if it'll do it the other way around, will it? No, it's always going to do that. But if the ace and king were reversed, you'd cash the ace first and then lead up to the king jack. So am I detecting our first moments of hesitation here?
Yeah.
If the queen was a singleton, then there may be some clue in the bidding where.
Yes, indeed. You would have thought that there'd be some bidding from the other player, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So that's quite right. However, it might be later in the hand where quite a few cards have been discarded or fallen. So, but that's technically the correct play. Anyway, next one, retaining the finesse position.
Oh no.
I remember this is one when I first came to the Fred Reynolds Centre. I remember teaching this in about the second lesson. This one.
One top trick.
Yep, we've at least got that.
Zero force.
Yeah, there's no.
No, we need
No
a sequence.
force
We've got
winners.
nothing like any force winners,
No.
have we?
There's no.
We could
no
force
leg.
out. We could force out the king with the queen. We could force out the jack with the 10, but what a waste.
There's
No.
no length,
Either.
so you're back to the finesse.
Spot the gaps. In fact, there are two of them, aren't there?
Yes.
And an end play, Chris.
Oh, there's John. Sorry, John. How long have you been with us?
Almost the beginning. I'm enjoying it though. It's very good.
Oh, good. Yes. Well, we hope we're on the easier side, and we're not at this moment going to discuss end plays, but I'm going to let you explain that in a couple of minutes.
Fine.
Now, assuming we're not in what's called an end play, more about which in a minute. What's the right way to play this suit, the ace queen 10 combination?
Me?
No,
Oh,
not you.
sorry.
I've been noticing your results, young man.
Well, I think first.
Sorry, just a second, John. We have a bit of a rule in that if there's any group ones now, most of the people are now watching recordings, so we don't have a big audience. But
Oh, I see.
we give the less experienced players a chance. So let's
That's
just
fine.
see.
No, I totally agree.
Thank you. How do we play it then?
Well, first of all, I think you'd delay playing that suit if you could.
Lovely if Wes led it.
Yeah.
And of course, this brings us to John's end play situation. But supposing you did have to play it, and we've got the general idea of tending to delay finesses because they can make favourable leads, indeed. But we're playing it. How do we play it?
Two.
Two to the 10.
You're going to try the 10, are you, first? Who's that? Sorry, is that Sheila?
Yeah, 2 to the 10 first, because
Yeah.
the king might drop on by West. Over the not drop, come over the 10.
It is correct to try the 10 first. And does anybody know the reason why you should do the 10 before the queen?
No.
Right.
Well,
Now, carry on, was that Brendan?
yeah. Well, you might get the king to drop or the jack.
It's because where do you hope the king and the jack are?
Well, I would hope it's in west.
East.
Absolutely. Now, of course, if you're lucky, a 1 in 4 chance, I guess, the king and the jack are both with east. Now, you cannot win and make the most of your luck. If you play the queen first, then east will have the king and the jack to your ace and the 10. And can you see that they will win that trick that way?
Yeah, correct.
Now, the general idea when you've got double finesses like this, for that reason, is that you try the lower one first. It's your only way of winning 3 tricks if the king and the jack are both on the right side. That means with east. Now, John, I only once tried to teach end plays. That was pre-COVID at the Fred Reynolds Centre. And to be honest, I wished I hadn't. But would you like to explain what you mean by an end play?
Well, essentially, you're hoping West has three hearts, one of them being the Jack or King, and that's all he's got. So if you lead through the 10, which he could win with the Jack or King, he's then forced to lead back into your Ace Queen, giving you two winners.
So at the end of the hand, and this is a bit more advanced than we're generally doing tonight, if this was the last few tricks in the hand, if you led up to the 10 and it lost, and you knew that the only cards West had left were hearts, he's stuck, isn't he?
Yeah.
Now, 3 or 4 years ago, I remember a kind of blank silence when I got to this point. So all this is on the website, of course, and you know, sometimes these positions need a little bit of study. But if you can't fully understand it, just remember that when you've got a double finesse, you tend to play up to the lower of the two high cards first. Here, the 10. How about this one? Top tricks, obviously, 1.
Yeah.
We need the 10 to have a force winner, so we can't count any there, and it's no length winners. So, as you may have guessed, we got another double finesse situation.
10. Lead the 10.
No.
Lead the 10 again.
Don't lead your high cards. You just, well, you can. If you've got, actually, if you've got 4 high cards, that's okay, as we'll see in a minute. But when you've only got 3, I don't think this is the best way to play it.
To the 10, yeah.
Well, first of all, it's a double finesse position because we've got 2 gaps.
Yeah.
But they're in a different position. Anybody?
6 to the 10.
Where
Yeah,
you
to the
lead
10.
up to those high
Yeah.
cards again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got to lead twice up to the Jack and the 10. Now, of
Mm.
course, the odds are that when you, shall we say, you play the 6 and you lead up to the 10. Now, most of the time, that's going to lose to something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The king or the queen. However, if you do it again, you have a chance. Half of the time, you will make one trick. The time when you won't make a single trick is when you're unlucky and West has the king and the queen.
Yeah.
So really, you know, the principle is the same. We're leading up to the cards we're trying to finesse rather than actually playing them. Now, this applies if you've got 3 high cards or less. We'll see an example in a minute where that's not true. Now, here is a very difficult question, I think. You lead up to the 10 and it loses. Okay?
Yeah.
Later, you try leading up to the Jack. What are the odds that that loses? And John, you please come in on this if you know the answer.
Got a calculator if you can wait a minute.
I'm going to repeat the question. This particular position was used many years ago on an American quiz show, and it fools even mathematicians. Right. The question is this. You lead the 6 and finesse the 10, which, as you probably expected, loses. All right. So shall we say to the queen?
I would say about 60, about 2/3 chance.
Yes, it is.
That you'd make 2 tricks.
Well, it is, but I'm just talking about the particular. You've lost to the queen, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, you then try the Jack. Now, common
To the Jack.
sense would yes, you lead up to the Jack because
Yes.
there's still one out on or out, isn't there? The king.
Yes.
If everybody's following,
Yeah.
you'd think it was a 50-50 chance, wouldn't you? Let's just say it again because it really is a apparently simple question. You play the 6, try the 10, it loses to the queen. Okay, fair enough. We expected that with most times. 3/4 of the times you'd expect that. Later, realizing that you've now got the ace and jack left, you lead up to the jack, hoping that that wins. In other words, East has got the king. Most people, common sense would dictate that that is a 50-50 chance at that stage. Would you agree?
Yeah.
In fact, the odds are 2-1 on that it'll win.
Really?
Now,
That's
yes,
fine.
indeed. It's something called the principle of restricted choice. And I do know that there are some mathematicians who find this hard to swallow. I'm not going to explain exactly why it is, because that's sort of beyond our lesson. But it can come into play when you're thinking, shall I risk this finesse? It's still 2-1 on.
Okay.
Tricky stuff. Principle of restricted choice.
Yeah, but then of course, West, who has the king, or East, who has the king, would also.
Well, I've got some different cards up here, but it's the same idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
W.
What throws it out, Chris, is the possibility of a doubleton with the king is what actually increases it above 50%.
No, it's even more tricky than that, actually. Now, so do you mind if I don't get dragged down? I know
Yeah,
I used
no,
to be a
fine.
maths teacher. Let it remain a strange mystery, but I can assure you it's true. What
No, I
you
believe
could
it,
do,
yeah.
you know, is play 100 hands and see actually what happened. Okay, next one. Now we're on to the quite difficult end of finesses, I will admit.
So one top trick.
One top trick.
Yeah.
No false.
That was easy.
Yeah. No force.
Yes. No
No.
forced winners, no length winners.
No finesses.
We spot a finesse position here. In
Yeah.
fact, I suppose you could call it a triple finesse position, because the 9 comes into it.
Yeah.
The 9 is just high enough to make it interesting. Now, I don't think any of you have seen this one before, as far as I remember, not in my time here. There are 3 gaps. The king, the queen.
King, queen, 10.
And at first sight, it doesn't look very promising. So bearing in mind the principles that we said already of not just cashing high cards, and I'm going to count the 9 as a high card here, because it's next door but 1 to the jack. That's crucial. And this is, if Keith were here, I know he knows this position.
Yes, he likes his deep finesse, he says.
He loves his deep finesses, but everybody to his own taste. I remember he's the only person to answer it last time we did finesses, I think. All right, so I think we worked out we should play from our hand, I hope, by now, at this stage of the lesson.
Yeah.
The question is, which card do we play? Say we lead the 2 and West plays low.
Yeah.
I suppose if you played the 9 and it lost, East would then be playing back, maybe.
Well, you're right in saying the 9. Now, the thing is about the 9 is that if West's got the 10,
Yeah.
then the 9 is going to lose to the king or the queen.
Yes.
Isn't it? So the 9 is close enough to the jack to be useful. Now, I'll say that again. Comes up quite often, this one. You lead up to the 9, hoping that West got the 10. That's the first hope, by the way. That's the first hope. And then if the 9 loses, say, to the queen,
Yeah.
later you can then try to finesse the jack. Okay. So to sum up, I'll put the comments. First, you finesse the 9, which, if you're lucky, West got the 10, it will lose to the queen or the king. But then the 9 has done its job. It's removed the king or the queen, and you then have this 50% chance of a finesse of the jack. So that really is a truly deep finesse. You can get even worse than that with ace, queen, 10, 8, but I'm not going to go down there tonight.
Yeah,
All right.
these-
Well, these are all on the website. So if you're finding it a bit puzzling, you can always have a look back. Couple more to finish the finesses. Then we might play one hand.
Oh. Hmm.
We've got one top trick
Yeah,
and no false winner.
yeah. Yeah,
Two,
force
two.
the wins.
Can you?
Three
Yeah.
tricks.
Top trick one, obviously.
Yeah,
Force winners.
two.
Now,
Why not?
yes, there are in a way, but I think we can do better than that. So although there are force winners, I've not called them that. No length winners.
So finesse
Yeah,
winners.
you force the king out.
Right, it's still up to.
It's the king, it's a finesse position, there's a gap. Now, I've been saying for half the evening, lead up to the cards you're trying to finesse. And you remember from ages ago, I said that if you got the luxury of 4 high cards, and we have here the queen, the jack, the 10, and the ace, you can actually afford to lead a high card. So what you do when you've got this nice squashed up position like this is hope that West's got the king, and you can actually lead the queen, and West king will be trapped, won't it?
Mm.
But this is the only time when you tend to lead a high card in the finesse position, is when you've got 4 high cards yourself. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it is possible that West might have 4 cards to the king, in which case that won't work. But generally speaking, that's the technique when you've got this run of high honours opposite an ace like that. Can you see that?
Mm.
You
Yeah.
see, if you just lead up the 6 to the queen, jack, 10 here, it'll just simply lose to the king, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Okay. Last one of these, and then we're going to play just one hand tonight.
Two top winners.
2 top tricks.
2 top tricks indeed.
No false winners.
Mm.
Well, actually, technically, there is one force winner, I suppose. I don't think I've labelled it as such, though, because we can do something else with this.
The queen.
Is this a double finesse?
Well, its actual name, Beryl, is a 2-way finesse.
Right.
0 length.
Yeah, 0 length, of course. Now, can you see that you could play this club suit 2 different ways? You could either lead the 2 of clubs and try and finesse the 10. See, there's only 1 high card missing.
Queen.
And that's the queen indeed. Or you could play the 7 and lead up to the jack. Now, on the face of it, it's pure guesswork. And if you are, well, of course, if they lead the suit, perfect. You win all 3 tricks. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So like in these positions, by the way, if they lead the suit, always play second hand low.
Yeah.
Don't make the decision until 4th hand, until the end, if that makes sense. Now, if they're not so pleasant as to lead this suit, then leave it to the end. Why should you leave it to the end?
Because they have less cards.
The cards work.
Well, at the start, it's a pure guess who has the queen of clubs.
Yeah.
But if you're, and I suppose, you know, we should do this, we should be counting all the way through a hand. You might, by looking at the cards, decide that West is far more likely to has more clubs. You've been looking at the other suits, okay? You've been counting them, in which case you finesse the 10. On the other hand, from your counting, you might find out that East has more likely to have a longer suit, in which case you finesse the jack. And that's called a 2-way thing. You just hope they lead. And this is why, by the way, when you see a dummy with 2 high cards in, do try not to lead it if you're east, because you can just so easily give a trick away.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how easy or difficult you found that. It looks as if it was too easy at the start and maybe a bit difficult at the end. But can't resist the fancy graphics. I think we'll just look at one deal tonight. And as usual, we go through the bidding first and then we plan the play. So what's our first bid, please? We are dealing.
One
One
no
no
trump.
trump.
One no trump.
Nice, straightforward. If you're not used to these arrows and you're playing these on my side, it just means a single card or a single bid, double card, double bid, and so on. Okay. North passes and partner now bids 3 no trumps, so the bidding is very straightforward. The ubiquitous 3 no trumps, and our lead, who is coming from north, is the 2 of hearts. Now, you remember what you're supposed to do, and so few of us really do, is not do anything until you've worked out your plan. And you remember the order of play. You work out your top tricks first. And how many have we got?
7.
7.
Yep, indeed. Top trick 7. So, as usual, we're short of our target. Any extra tricks from anywhere?
Diamonds.
You've got length in diamonds.
Yes, we can't count that, unfortunately, because we do also have the ace. We've counted 4 top tricks.
Yeah, true.
In fact, if anything, we've got slight duplication there with the 9 and 10, haven't we?
Yeah.
It needs them.
Spades lead up to the ace, king, jack, and try and finesse the jack.
So there's a finesse position in spades there, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's in fact what we called earlier retaining the finesse position. So we might have the luxury of being able to play the ace first. Anything else? So that brings us up, we hope, to 8 tricks.
Possibly length in clubs.
Yes, unfortunately, Martin, some of these things are, I think, is the word chimera. Because the situation in hearts is a bit desperate. We're going to lose the lead quickly. And although clubs looks like a possible lucky length winner, I don't think there's going to be time for that. But there's something else about clubs.
Well, you've got a run, haven't you? You've got 9, 8, 7, 6.
No to do anything about, really. We need, well, perhaps the 10, 9, 8 might be worth a bit, but not, I don't think that. But there's something else about that club, Sue.
Is there?
Do you remember we went from A to Z? Can you remember A?
Long while ago.
Well, it's funny how this is a blind spot for people, you know, the king on its own. It's a finesse.
Yeah.
I know it's the simplest of all finesses, isn't it? So you'll be leading up to your king of clubs. Of course, they might lead it for you, which would be marvelous. But, you know, we've got 2 half chances here. We're going to have to be lucky, aren't we, really? We need the queen of spades to be with north. And we need the ace of clubs to be with south. Now, I make that about a 25% chance. So let's play out the hand. Now, the first trick we've ducked.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't actually matter in this particular hand, but in your weak suit, and this is our weak suit, we'll have separate sessions on this. It is often a good idea not to win the first trick or sometimes 2 tricks. So it's a good habit to get into. And we got to lose a heart, so we might as well lose it now. They'll probably come back with hearts. There's the score. Yeah, they have, and we don't have any choice now. So we've at least won the second trick. 8 more to get. Now, I think I said at least twice earlier, don't take your finesses until the late stages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why not instead play out this diamond suit and see if we can get
Yeah.
some, some picture of what's going on. So let's lead with the ace first, and then the jack, I think. And I'm doing this because I want to finish in dummy, because I want to finesse the king. And when you are forced to take finesse positions, it's often quite important how you play suits like this, because you do have to play the finesse from dummying clubs. There we are. And it doesn't matter about that discard because we've got another winner here. Now we are in the right hand to take the club finesse. There's the score. We've got 5 tricks, 4 to go. We're going to have to be lucky, aren't we?
Yeah, good, sure.
But first, why not cash the ace of spades? As we said earlier, we've still got the finesse position there on the theoretical principle that there's a singleton queen. It's not very likely, but you never know. So we might as well cash that. Good technique. And now the crunch comes. Have you all got your fingers crossed, or both fingers crossed?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
No. He's gone up with the ace. Normally it's second hand low, so there must be a good reason for this. Done our job for us though.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't usually like playing second hand high. But there must be a good reason. So let's
Ashes are
see.
winners.
Chance to get those heart winners. And North now still playing on hearts. They'll run out soon, fortunately. Is that the last one? I can't remember. No. Leads a club, probably the only thing you can do, North. So we've got our king. Well, that was the first luck, wasn't it? South did indeed have the ace, and they played it to try and make sure of their heart winners. Now what do? Well, we take finesse.
The ace is gone.
But you've got one hand to cross. And have you noticed how lucky we seem to be on Wednesday evenings?
It must be the way the cards are played.
I think we can. I think there's a claim there, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 9 tricks. If you click these things, it shows you what I was talking about earlier. I forgot to actually click those. Well, thank you for being an audience, because I don't know if you hear when I said I have no idea why, but we have 200 hits on the YouTube site. So it
Smash
might
that
have been
like button.
you keep pressing the like button. So thank you, because the numbers are going down. But I totally understand why. If all these people are watching, that's it. Yeah. So I need to stop recording.
Thank you, Chris.
Sorry, I've lost where the stop record. Oh, there it is.
Well, I'll use last recording because I wasn't here. So I'll use it. All right.
You have to know. No, that's not it, is it? Well, don't worry about that. You go off to your suppers or whatever. Well, I'll try and remember where the stop recording button is.
Thank you, Chris.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Push it off at the wall.
Bye.
Oh, there it is.
Oh.